for disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof, for the agenda of this meeting and for minutes of a meeting in which a member was not in attendance. Seeing none, moved by, I know how Phil feels sometimes now. Councillor Moda, seconded by Councillor Goodwillie. Resolved that Council hereby consider sections 4 to 8 of Part 1 of the consent agenda as read and adopt the items. Does anybody wish to discuss any of the items? Councillor Goodwillie.
No, I don't see anything that's jumping out.
Councillor Barron.
No, I really have no complaints.
Councillor Moda.
What section are we covering?
4 to 8 inclusive,
4 to 8. I'm good. Thanks.
up until the bylaws.
Yeah, I'm good.
I thought I had something, but I think I cleared it up. Okay. So, once again, resolved that Council hereby consider sections 4 to 8 of Part 1 of the consent agenda as read and adopt the items. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. There'll be 2 of these.
Yeah.
Moved by Councillor Moda, seconded by Councillor Barron. Resolved that Council hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda as read without amendment or debate a first and second time. All in favor? Carried. Resolved that Council hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda as read a third time and passed. Does anyone wish to discuss any of the bylaws? Councillor Moda.
Yes, just some clarification, if you don't mind, please. 9.2.
9.2. Councillor Barron.
No, I was fine.
And Councillor Goodwillie.
I'm fine.
So, 9.2.
It's the clean
Infrastructure?
wastewater fund, yeah, infrastructure transfer payment agreement. So I was going through this document, reading it, and I was trying to figure out exactly how much is our portion or how much we're getting. And I was looking at the different sections in here, and I was trying to make heads or tails of everything. So I don't know if somebody can just explain it to me a little more in detail, if you can.
Well, just a bit of a background. So we got approved for the CWWF for a number of different initiatives.
Correct.
And so we received approval for a certain amount, but when we did all the tender packages, the prices came in different. Some were higher, some were lower, and when talking to CWWF, they were stating, no, you only get so much for this one, so you're going to be short on this one, and you're going to have too much for this one,
Okay.
but we're not going to give you too much for this one because the project's only this amount.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we've gone back through our infrastructure development coordinator, who did a good job on this, went back and stated our case on why we need the funding.
So this is why it's an amendment too.
Correct.
Okay.
The really good news about this is our portion has gone down. So in fact,
Good.
we will be saving $100,000 off of loan proceeds. So this is a good news item.
Okay, fabulous, thank you. I just wanted some clarification, trying to understand.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a follow-up. I believe we sat here and talked about it. I think it was probably January's meeting, Councillor Moda,
Yeah. It's in the
where there was 3 items, I think, at that time.
I think there was
Maybe 4.
3 or
but I think
4,
there was
yeah.
3. And like the CAO says, the quotes have come back differently than the original ones we got. But
there was 4.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Anything else? So, moved by Councillor Moda, seconded by Councillor Barron. Resolved that Council hereby consider all bylaws, Section 9 of Part 1 of the consent agenda, is read a third time and passed. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Section 10, referred and deferred items, 10.1, AMO Main Street funding.
So this item is, obviously, it's been brought to the table before, and there was a number of different, I guess, ideas that have been tabled. So we wanted to revisit this item because in July, we have to determine what project this funding will go towards. The project doesn't have to be completed until 2020, but we need to identify a project, and it's just over $41,000.
And that's a one-time.
Yeah.
I think it was last month you had asked us to come back with ideas.
Yeah.
So did anyone think of anything? Councillor Mota?
First question I have regarding the funding, does that have to be for one project or can it be split amongst 2 or 3 projects? Do we know that?
I'd have to get verification on that. I look at Brenda because she's worked on it, but I believe it's just one project.
Okay.
But we'll confirm that.
Because my first thought is we could use that $41,000 towards the pavilion to decrease our costs, because that'll be in the CIP area now. And my second thought, and this is why I was asking if we can use in different areas, is I was investigating some areas around biking systems and locking systems where you can actually rent bicycles or have lock stalls. So you could have some located in the downtown core, you could have some located in Centennial Park or through different areas. I'm not sure of the cost of all that, but it's obviously environmentally friendly, gets people out being active, recreation, everything falls under that category. So I wasn't sure if council had a direction or not where they wanted these funds to go, so that was just one of a couple ideas that I had in regards to that. So that's why I was asking if some of the funds could be divided or not, because I'm not sure of how much if council wanted to go ahead with a bike kind of project, I don't know if that would use the entire $41,000 that's being given to us.
Councillor Mayor, any thoughts on
Yeah, I had the.
projects?
I had the pavilion, because that's a lot, not very much money. $41,000 is not a lot of money, and I know the pavilion or the skating rink or whatever changes, I don't care what it does in there, but I think 41,000 would be nice little push to do something over in there.
I wonder would the pavilion fit in?
Yeah.
Would the pavilion fit?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The stumbling block before was because of the CIP area did not include
Okay.
that area, so now it does. So it could
So
be
now we could do it.
correct. Yeah.
That's where I would like to see it go.
So more to come June 6th.
Correct.
I had a couple of thoughts. Did you have any?
I'm good with the pavilion, not,
I thought of a couple of things, and again, like Councillor Mota, I wasn't sure if the money could be split, because I thought it wouldn't hurt to put some money towards that Norseman plate for the rebuilding of it. And another place where we could spend some money if we so desired, I think, is that little patio on Main Street across from the Lakeview. I don't think there'd be a big expense there. I don't think it needs a total rebuild. I've sort of went out and had a look at it. Not that I'm a carpenter or anything by any means, but what I saw was maybe a good cleaning and some stain would fix most of the problems there, because it just looks worn. And another thing we may want to look at, just brainstorming, I'm using that term loosely, the parking lot across from Gord McIntyre's that he rents 3 stalls in, if we could maybe form a partnership with the fellow that owns the building next door to it and do some work on that parking lot to help ease congestion in that certain area of the downtown.
talking about his knee where he parks his junk, smash cars and stuff.
The only guy that actually pays us?
He pays us.
Oh, yeah.
It's an empty lot, and it's right next to where Tickanoggin is.
Yes, yes.
Will that be, are you thinking of a fee for parking then? The same as what we have in behind the CIBC?
Well, the fellow that is using 3 of the stalls in there now does pay us for them. The same. How did we arrive at that rate? Can you remember, Mike? I think it was the same as what they would have paid if they were behind the CIBC. But I could be wrong.
It was it's a different rate, and actually,
Okay.
that agreement has expired.
Oh, has
He
it?
not. I don't know the timeline, but he hasn't paid for a period.
Because that problem's not going to go away.
The parking.
But I don't think, and just my feeling, that it should be up to us entirely to provide parking for an office, what has become an office building next door in a building that was originally a bed and breakfast, wasn't it?
Right.
That might only have 2 or 3 cars.
Don't hold your breath. What's his name? Tickanoggin. I heard is shopping.
So just some thoughts I had, but I certainly would not be averse to the pavilion. Go ahead, Councilor Moore.
So that being said, it seems all of us are in agreement for putting the money towards the pavilion. I'm just wondering if, before we come to that conclusion around this table, can we ask staff to investigate to see if we can use some of the partial funds for something different before making that decision?
Yeah. Or if it's just
We will we'll research that and report back to council, and we'll do so on or before June 6th.
yeah.
Because then I think it might make an easier decision around the table if there's only one project versus, I don't know if we can split some up and put 5,000 here, 5,000 there, or everybody wants to put it in the pavilion or whatever the case may be. But that might answer our question. I know it can't be split.
Yep. So directed. Any more discussion or? Okay, AMO delegations for end of August, isn't it?
Yes.
Which gets tricky because we don't know what we'll have for government. Maybe a new treasurer might actually see us.
And we traditionally try to submit, around this time. We try not to wait, but, and although I think we can wait beyond the elections, the provincial elections, these are due July 7th, our delegations. But for today's purposes, I just wanted to bring forward the ministries that were mentioned at the last meeting we had, and see if there's any additions before we move to start submitting. So we have the Ministry of the North, Ministry of Northern Development and Mines, looking at discussing the event center, provide them an update, and we normally provide M&DM a general update on the activity in Red Lake, but we can update Shirley on the CIP progress to date, assisted and transitional housing for seniors, and also the road north. Wondering if there's any additions you feel on that one.
Just for MNDM,
Correct.
15 minutes you got covered.
Okay. And please, up until, let's say, June 12th, if you have any others, please bring them forward. Ministry of Education, Early Learning, and Childcare. Any additions to that? Ministry of Transportation, Nungesser Road, Road North, and the ferry. Finance, Transit, Municipal Accommodation Tax, impact as it relates to industry and pipeline taxation.
With him, how about revenue sharing, cost revenue sharing?
Okay.
We can certainly inquire.
Be nice to get some of our dollars back in this community after they're being taxed and sent down to Queen's Park.
We can certainly put that part of our discussion with MNDM as well.
Yeah.
Ministry of Health, Long-Term Care, Transitional Assisted Living for seniors.
And what about more senior beds? Sioux Lookout was just approved for more long-term beds for their community in the north. And I think our needs just as much.
Was that long-term beds that they?
Yeah.
Okay. Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, Road North, and perhaps a discussion on Urban Reserve
And the event center.
and the event center. Any comments on that one? No? And then infrastructure. We didn't bring this up at the last meeting, but we should meet with infrastructure regarding the event center, also the OCIF funding as well. The Ministry of Infrastructure plays a key role in evaluating and recommending projects, not only for the OCIF, but for the funding that will be launched this fall pertaining to the event center. So I think it's very important for us to continue this dialogue. Could be a new minister, we don't know, but
In regards to the OSIF fund, have we ever found the answer, and I already know the answer to this question, I think, but have we ever been told the reasons why we keep getting turned down? Because I recall projects we apply to, we don't qualify, then we apply again, and then we're not eligible again for financing. And we brought this up, I believe, to the minister before, and we've never really gotten a straight answer why we're not getting the funding for OSIF.
That's not OSIF.
What?
OSIF is, we get that every year regardless, right?
there's a formula based,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
there's the application based.
Yeah.
So we get denied on the
We
application.
get denied on them, yeah.
And
I approached one of the ministers in Kenora about that, and he told me that didn't happen. That we always get our OSIF funding.
Well, we get denied for a lot of projects.
Lassie Road's one good example. We've got denied every time you request.
Oh, I'm aware of that, but I'm just giving you the answer that I got.
And what the response I've received is, as in comparison to other communities, as far as a safety, we rank lower. So then that money goes to
Somebody
more
else.
critical infrastructure projects.
That's based on indebtedness, is it not? Or one of the factors?
Well, it can be, yeah, but it's more of a critical versus non-critical in their eyes.
How do we become critical? That's the question, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it depends whose eyes are looking at it too, Counselor.
Yeah.
It was the same thing with the train funding when we were down in Nova, and I raised questions about that. You know, we were rejected for the 150 on another fund, but it's the same thing. We keep getting rejected, but we want to know reasons as to why.
Which, on that note, we are yet to hear back from the OTF representative, correct? So that's all I have on this topic. If anybody has anything they want to add, please pass it along.
I wonder
Go ahead, Counselor
if a
Brand.
lot of these requests and stuff that we've asked for are on a sort of a hold until the June 7th election is over and you get new players put into the positions, or you keep the same ones, however the community decides on that, and then they'll make the announcements after, for some of these things that, or are they just dead of the road and not going to come back again? Because we've been harping about 2 or 3 different issues nicely, and I'd like to see some kind of funding, and it's kind of like, to me, I feel I'm coming out with a feeling it's on hold until the election's over, and then there might be some more. Like, we got a lot of, like, some people have got a lot of funding leading up to the election, but I think maybe some might come after. Do you see that way, or do you think it could happen that way, or is it just they handed it all out pre-election?
I would suggest you'll have a harder time getting it after an election unless you have the same government that knows what's going on. Because a new government will probably take a year to figure out what they're doing. What's come in, what's been approved, what hasn't been approved. As a rule, they'll grant stuff, be it water and sewer projects, what have you, pretty well up until the day the writ for the election is dropped. Which was, 2 weeks ago, something like that?
Is when we're in Noma, or
Yeah, just after.
the Monday after Noma, I believe.
So I would suspect if you didn't hear of it by then, you're probably not getting it. Because that was May already, eh? Go ahead, Councillor Mona.
I just had another thought with the Minister of Corrections and Social Services in regards to OPP costing, even though I know we've gotten the cost down, there's always room for improvement with that. But also with the road going north, who is going to be responsible for that costing? And is it going to be downloaded to us when that road goes, and that road goes to the bridge north? Because who's going to be responsible for that? Food for thought, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And we met with that minister last time, I believe, did we not, down at
Yeah,
Over?
we did.
We did, yep.
And when we went to Roma, we met with OPP on both of those topics that he's just brought up.
Yep.
So
And
might
it
be
sounded like, to
worthwhile.
answer your first one, it was frozen for a few years at what we are right now. That's what I can remember, right? Did you
Correct.
get, it's
It is.
frozen?
It's always good to revisit. And especially with that road going north, I'd hate to see more costs downloaded onto us as a municipality and our ratepayers of this community if that road is going in, and that bridge, pardon me.
And we also brought that to their attention, that there'd be more services needed and required and so on and so forth when we,
Correct.
so they know that it's coming, or it may come.
This is why I'm saying I think we need
Yeah.
Yep.
a delegation maybe warranted for that.
Yep.
Anything else?
And just on that note, it could be a new government, but all likelihood, the bureaucrats remain the same for the most part. That's why it's always very important to have our connections with the ministers, deputy ministers, etc. But having relationships with the top bureaucrats is very important.
For sure.
Moved by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Mota. Resolved that council hereby adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor? Carried.